the
Welcome to Enlightened AF. I'm Tricia Carr.
And I'm Aidan Demarest.
And we have a really special friend and special guest, and not the special guest, not the special friend, the kinds that Aidan calls special friends. I don't think you guys have actually slept together.
No, we haven't. I'm glad you broke that right
Unfortunately.
up. Cleared that deck right away.
Unfortunately, Nick says.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I just am not, I don't have that inclination, unfortunately.
I don't have that inclination either.
And I don't have the inclination to sleep
Aidan.
with Nick either.
All right, so this
Hey, well, every man that I know that has sex with men doesn't want to sleep with me, and it's because apparently I'm too straight. They don't think that I'm even a little bit gay.
It.
Really? Isn't there kind of a isn't there a constant yearning that makes some particular people like want to turn you more?
In my early 20s.
Let me just pause it.
did.
We're already
This is
into
Nick. Did we already
Nicholas Vitulli. We have
Yes.
Nicholas
Hi.
Vitulli
We
in
say his
studio.
name yet
Is there
before we
anywhere I'm supposed to
clarified
be
he's
looking?
never actually sucked a dick?
I've never, Nicholas Vitulli. Hi, my name is Nicholas Vitulli. I've never actually sucked a dick.
Why did that have to be in the intro?
Because
That's just how I introduce myself.
Actually, it is how he introduces himself.
that's
all
why
over
that
town.
seems to be why maybe that's why gay guys don't want to do you.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nick. I don't suck dick. Oh.
And it's
All
been
right.
a real glass ceiling for him in LA, actually. It's been a real glass ceiling he can't get past. I don't know why you don't realize that's the reason you haven't made the jump.
I know my life is. I could be light years ahead of.
I think
where
you
I
need
am.
to put that phallus net closer to your
Oh,
mouth.
do I?
Yeah, a
you
little,
Okay.
bit, a little bit
This will
closer.
not-
All right. So
don't
why?
worry.
why
It won't come.
So why? So why is Nick on the show? Let's talk to Nick, okay, Aidan,
Yes.
shall we? And Nick is a dear old friend of ours, and I actually
We love
haven't
Nick.
talked to him in a while, but you guys talked over the last 3 days recently.
In a row.
And he's in a row, and so they're gonna
So much so that we
be
finally just
useless
had to-
because they're not interested in speaking in an interesting way. They already
blew all the
spun
funny?
they already spun all of their energy.
All the interesting stuff.
It's not possible.
No. But Nick, let's talk about Nick. Nick is he's an actor. I mean, you're not currently acting, are you?
No.
No, but as like an embodiment, part of who you are is an actor, and really had a lot of study in it. And also, we know him from the booze industry. That's
Right?
But I should have been more about
So
the
it's-
acting, huh? And then I probably you might know who I was if I was
lit up
less
like a slot machine
about the
about the
booze.
booze. You're like,
Then
"Yes, I
you
am."
might have seen me on TV if I was a little less.
Oh, look, there you are. Boom.
oh, look
Oh,
at
that's
that.
me.
He's
I'm
a
on TV.
master mixologist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us what's been going on with you, Nick. Tell us about your journey, because we actually entitled this episode, Spiritual Chameleons, which is something that Aidan came up with. So let's talk about why you named it that, and let's talk about how that actually refers to you and or Nick, because you came
I
up
think
with
it
that.
referred to all three of us. And
Okay.
that's when I sort of,
I guess so, yeah.
I definitely thought it applied to all three of us. And I thought of it today, walking around the reservoir.
Yeah.
Right?
That tells you how much we prepare for this show.
I was deep in thought about it.
That's
It
how
was-
you
I was
prepare
trying
for
to
things.
I was trying to
meditative.
think about like
well, I
what,
just mean the timing. It was several minutes ago.
20 minutes ago that occurred to me, but also how much more as I get older, but also as I get to know people in different spaces, like whatever, like how I discover that everybody I know, you and you both, end up being people that I didn't know when I first met them. You know what I mean? And
Right.
And the various faces that we all wear, and especially since we all came from the spirit world, and
As in,
liquor, booze.
Yeah, booze.
Right? We were all brand ambassadors for the different brands.
You
I've never
didn't-
been a brand ambassador.
No,
Oh,
but
no,
you've
you
worked
haven't.
closely with
No.
brands.
Yeah, brands, but not technically a brand
Right?
ambassador. Totally different job.
Yeah.
Totally different thing that she does.
Yeah.
Do you even
Let's
know
see
your
her trying to
friends?
distance herself from that. Why?
No,
Are
no.
you looking down at us right now?
Not at all. No, I actually tried to get brand ambassador jobs, and they were all like, "Get out of here."
It was just not all
you
that much fun
virgin.
at 3 a.m.
Like they were like, exactly.
Can you get us a hooker
Nobody's
in
gonna
Palm
believe
Springs?
that you
I know.
drink.
Do you know how to
Get out
find
of town.
Do you know how to find a hooker in Austin at 4 a.m.?
No.
Fail.
He does.
See, I
Ding,
know.
ding, ding, ding.
That's why they turned me down. That was the law of attraction working for
She's
all
like,
of us.
but I got these spreadsheets nailed. What is that?
Grown up.
What is that?
I could tell you
have
all about
recipe cards for the event tonight.
3/4, 3/4, 1.5, and they're like, "What?"
I mean, I throw it all in a
Like, is that
shaker
the
and set it
number?
on
Is that like
fire.
code for the phone number for the Coke dealer? No, those are
that's not
actual
helpful.
specs for the
Why is
drink.
it laminated? that was Tricia.
Because alcohol is wet. Duh.
The epitome of Tricia's job. And
Why is your
I
bed
backed out
laminated?
That's the problem. That's a better question. And we can end the show because that's the best. This is really the end. I think that ends.
Killed it.
That
Dropped
ends the
mic.
entire. Yeah. That's
Anyway,
pretty much it.
spiritual chameleons. I think, to me, more and more.
That's why Nick is in charge.
I think that Nick is a spiritual chameleon. I think that we all are. But I think that I was like, like meaning wherever we are, we then sort of become a little bit a part of that in a good way.
Oh.
Not just like in a shallow sort of jumping from one thing to another, but like, moving through things.
So whatever the context is, we become the spiritual aspect of it, the spiritual resonance in it, even if it is
more and more like the
Hookers in
people
Austin?
that we've had on the show. Everyone we've had on the show so far has been a former actor, pretty much.
Yeah.
That, you know what I mean?
Except for David, a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Right? But Lauren was on the show, and Aaron and Nick, and people that worked in bars and something. It's just a lot of people that we know that end up working in that. And there's chameleon actors, sort of that kind of.
Me
Well,
too. Yeah, this is apparently a former actor show.
Well, it's also
Hey,
Los
totally.
Angeles, and we work in the alcohol industry. So
Yeah.
most people that come to work in hospitality in Los Angeles are here to either act or be a musician or whatever. And the next best thing, if you like to drink, is to be behind a bar because you're on stage and you're like, everybody's looking at me and they all want to fuck me. Oh, wait, am I allowed to say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
used up the fuck.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's-
Our first episode was called 3 Fucks and 1 Shit. No, 3 Shits and 1 Fuck.
3 shits, 1 fuck.
I think you just used up all your fucks.
We've used them all up.
We did.
The bank is
in
overdrawn.
the title we did, actually. That's what she told me. Just describing the show meant they were all gone.
Pretty much.
But we're never going to get that Pampers sponsorship that we were looking for.
You might get the Depends one.
Procter Gamble. 3 fucks, 3 shits, and 1 fuck. Hey, anybody at Depends would be happy for those numbers.
That's true.
You're welcome. Depends. I'm wearing some right now. We're on a 24-hour marathon show. I'll never get up.
So, wait, what was you saying? Nick was just saying something.
Look.
I was what I
strong.
was saying is that there are similarities between working in hospitality and
Oh,
acting
and
or
I was
wanting to be
saying-
the center of attention.
Yes, and that's actually not what I liked about acting either. Was it about,
Right.
I didn't like drinking. That's not what I liked about. That's why me and working in bars was like, I was just explaining it to my friend earlier today that it was very painful because I don't drink during the shift. I mean, I drink a little bit, but I really very little bit. Like a glass and a half of wine is a big night, huge night for me, because of I don't have the.
Did you work at any? I know the buttoned-up places and the places you worked at with me, but did like Providence was not like a shit kicker, get drunk kind of place. Did you work at any like shit kicker places
Yeah.
before?
Yes, it was like the kind of so Black Market. It's not really a shit kicker place.
But party place.
Okay, so that
I forgot about Black
that's
Market entirely.
That's the shit kickinest
which
that I
she
did.
handed me drinks at constantly.
Yeah. So Black Market is the last
wonder
place
why
that
you
I worked.
forget.
I forgot about that.
I worked in a place that all the places are now defunct now, but for 5 years I worked in a place very similar to Black Market, but like, in
But
2004
what about like
to
Bun Rat,
2009.
like super pub, like
No.
cashing their their check?
No. But I
No?
did hang out in a place like that in my 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
And
did
I had
you, did you
literally
work at
had
any,
white
like,
wine
shit
spritzers.
kicker, like super like you can cash your Section 8
Well,
check.
you give enough alcohol and cocaine to anybody, it turns into a shit kicking bar. It doesn't matter if you're in the Four Seasons.
Yeah.
That's true. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite scenario, actually.
Yeah, it's just a more
Turning the Four
expensive
Seasons into a rat hole.
Well, when I worked at, I'm not going to say the name because I'm about to say something that could be a bad rap for them. This is not their fault, but I worked at the most swankiest, nicest, most expensive restaurant in Los Angeles. You know
Yeah,
what I'm talking
I
about.
sure do.
Yeah, and it's a very common place for gentlemen to bring escorts
Prostitutes.
because the prostitute, apparently the culture is the prostitute gets to pick the place. And so she just Googles the most expensive place in Los Angeles. And
Yes. And
then
also,
they
your
wind up
wife's
there.
definitely not there.
because
She can't afford it.
Yeah.
Most of Beverly Hills is
I mean,
like
from
that.
what I hear.
Go out and
Yeah, there's no chance you're going to run into her.
Yeah.
Right?
All right. So what else? What else is Nick? Tell us about your journey. That's how I always like it. What have you been up to? What are you doing?
What am I doing?
I mean, we haven't caught up. We haven't
I'm
talked in a
paddling.
while.
That's true. We haven't. Well, my previous brand that I worked on, I was on tour with a musician for a year and a half, and that was a lot.
Do you want to name the musician? You don't have to.
I don't think I'm supposed to.
Okay. Well, let's
Maybe
just say,
No, but you were a bartender on the road.
and
I
it's a big, popular, multinational musician. We'll just say that.
Yeah. So I was on tour with him for a year and a
picked up
half.
something out.
And then when I got off of that, it was a lot of strain on my soul and on my body. And I've been taking it easy. I've been on a bit of a spiritual journey myself. I just drove down the side of the country, 2,000 miles down the coast. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
I've been doing a lot of meditating and going to places like Big Sur. I'm going to do a Vipassana 10-day silent yoga retreat or meditation retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a spiritual journey. I'm just
For
stepping
reals.
away
Like,
from all
Aidan's
the
been
booze.
spending with him 3 days with him, and he didn't know
where
any
did
of
that
this.
come from?
Well, we
Where's your orange pajamas happening right now? Like, are you going to be giving out flowers at the airport on Saturday?
well, life is about balance, isn't it? Life
Yes.
is about balance. You can't have all of the one thing.
But
without a
you
little bit of the other.
went to, all right, I want to hear
Yeah,
that
we
more.
worked together for a
You
bit.
worked together
Yeah.
in the same period of time that
Like
I did
I was
some
doing, I did some energy
stuff on
healing
him.
and
Oh, that
intuitives,
kind of work.
that
I
kind
was
of work,
like,
yeah.
I don't remember working at a bar with you.
But we could
That
have
must have been
convinced
a
him.
fun bar.
We could have convinced him.
Can you talk about? I want to hear about that because I always am fascinated as to how when I told people initially that I was seeing Tricia or that I had an experience seeing Tricia and we did some healing when she first came out about being sort of a woo-woo psychic,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Wait,
A
what?"
woo-woo psychic?
Yeah, that sort of thing. And anyway, how did that happen for you? Tell me that.
We
story.
did work together, and
Yeah.
I actually would love to do that again now
Sure.
that we're back in
Yeah.
contact. Why don't you give your recollection?
You're like,
of how
I
that
don't
happened?
remember.
I do remember.
Was
Okay,
it
then
in
you
a
tell
No,
us.
no,
First
you
of all,
go,
was it
you
in a
go.
bar? Or did you have a crystal ball?
No.
No, it
I
was-
have crystals, but I don't, not a crystal
I
ball.
know.
No.
I'm kidding. I just, like,
well,
I'm like when people say work together, they don't know what the hell it.
Well, they do if you.
You had a session,
My
like
business.
it's like called
Yeah.
a healing session.
Yeah, he
right?
came. Yeah, we did a few, 2 or 3, I think.
Huh?
Yeah.
The way that I remember it, and again, there's been a lot of alcohols passed through these lips. But the way that I remember it was I went
Today?
through this afternoon. No, the way that I remember it was I had gone through a very difficult time in my life, and she being someone that knows me and cares about me was like, I think maybe I can help you with things that you're dealing with. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, I do what I do. And
I
maybe
do what I do.
what I do. And why don't you come over and we'll talk about it? So we did, and it was okay. Then now you can take over because there's jargon and
Jargon. No, well,
What's
we
the
did.
jargon?
I don't know. We did some. I remember doing some energy healing,
Mm-hmm.
and then we also did some mediumship. Yeah, I brought. You.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Friend,
we
yeah.
talk to dead people,
Yeah.
so mediumship is
Was it just?
within
I only
this
remember it
jargon.
being one. Were there more
Yeah,
than that?
well, as far as
Or maybe your guides as
conversing.
well, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
we spoke with the guides,
Yeah.
or they were there.
Yeah, and but I was just telling Aidan this on the phone, and I was like recalling. I don't remember. So here's the thing: like the way intuitive or mediumship sessions go, it's like happening it's literally in the same kind of dimension as dreams. And so you know how you forget about dreams, so I forget my sessions. But so I was like, as I was talking to him, I was like, yeah, I remember we did a session and it was for his friend, and all of a sudden can I say his name?
My friend?
Yeah.
Sure.
Max, is that his name?
Yeah, can't say Drake, but we can say Max. That part doesn't matter. Max is much more
Well,
important.
see, I didn't remember that. The thing is, he came through like while I was talking to Aidan. I was like, I didn't remember.
Oh, really?
That's why
Yeah,
I remember
when
his
I
name
mentioned you the other
today.
day.
Oh, wow.
because he came through the other day while we were talking. He's got a very strong presence. You know what I mean?
She said
Yeah,
that
when
name.
he wants to talk
She
to you, he
said that
does.
name.
To you, anyway.
She
I said that
when I
name.
said I saw Nick, and she said something about Max, and I was like, "What?"
You're like, who the fuck
Yeah,
is
he
that?
just. I mean, I don't remember. Like, usually it's. I'll be teaching, and I'll start to tell a story from a session that's like helpful. You know what I mean? Like the other day, I was giving a reading, and it was with a cat or a dog. It was yesterday, and I literally can't even remember things like that, even though I was connecting with the dog for a whole hour. I can't remember what kind of animal it was because it's just the. But anyway, so Max this is years ago, and Max just like boom, came right through and said, "It's Max. That's who it is."
Yeah,
Basically.
you were
Aw.
scrolling for his name.
Yeah.
I
He's
say
still
hi.
a loudmouth.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
What'd you say?
I said he's still a loudmouth. I didn't know him, but
Yeah, but you're sure if he's Nick's friend that he's a loudmouth.
I pity the fool that I haunt.
I don't know how I feel about that. Yeah, that was that helped me through a lot because, everyone depending on what you believe in, or if you want to get technical about it, scientifically, what you believe in. It's nice to think that once you die, you don't just go away, or and then religion exists for a reason because you don't know. Mm-hmm. But when you have an experience or multiple experiences like I had with you, it's a little bit more comforting because you're someone that you love, you care about, is still there.
Yeah.
And
your love is still there. Love, energy can neither be created nor destroyed, but especially energy of love, which is the energy that this field is composed of, essentially life force, integrative, positive, integrating energy. So it never disintegrates. It never separates. So even if you get divorced, the love that you had that was real, it's still there. It still exists, even if it's not a version that you're renewing today. You know, that love never goes anywhere.
Yeah, I feel like I've been more and more. That's a really nice, comforting, and comforting is a good term. And it's a lot more. There's a lot more grace in knowing that, especially if you're worried about getting older, or you're worried. There's a lot of people just have idealistic times in their lives that they're like, oh, that was so great. That's not gone. You get to own that forever.
Yes.
And more, especially with the kids, I'm realizing, because you, as a parent, you're constantly when they were babies, or now when they're or when the kids are little. And I've just more and more been aware of the fact that those times aren't gone. Those people are still there, just like me as a kid is still there. I mean, I deal with myself as a child.
That's an interesting thing.
Time is an illusion. Yeah, time is an illusion.
Right there,
everything
those people
exists.
Are right there.
Even all the versions of yourself exist. Even parallel, potential, probable versions of yourself exist. Everything exists.
I think
you can't imagine a non-reality.
I think that people who aren't even aware that the people that you admire that show a lot of grace in life. My grandmother was somebody who just watched transition happen from the turn of the century. She lived for a century, and I didn't realize she was teaching me grace, that she lost husbands, children's times, I got older and stuff like that, and I don't ever remember her being the good old days.
Gosh, it's so amazing that you're talking about grace. We're so telepathic, by the way, because that's been I talked about it last night in the class that I taught.
Oh, really?
A big part of it was about grace, and this morning I have a headache today, and as I felt into it, it was like you're not giving yourself grace. And then, of course, he has a baby in heaven named Grace. So it's pretty amazing.
Right.
So,
side note.
Side note.
Sad side note.
Yeah.
But also a big part is it was a fitting name. I think that lately I've been seeing the difference in that, in the fact that though we use the word grace and it sounds very sort of I don't know, it sounds religious.
It sounds
almost.
Religious. It's weird, but it's a really beautiful.
It's a really beautiful term when you consider it's almost like acquiesce. It's like you're really just kind of letting life wash over you.
Well, we talked about it last week too.
I don't display it most of the time.
We talked about grace in the last episode too.
I value it.
I can recognize it.
No, keep this good moment. Keep that money. Keep that stuff. I want
Which
it
is
now.
the opposite of grace.
Totally.
You're so classy. You keep it up. I want that hat now.
Not graceful.
I don't know.
But grace is the space between your creative thought and the manifestation of it. And what can happen between you having the creative thought and it actually becoming form is that you get to refine it. And that's what's really beautiful about grace. But we tend to have such an addiction to the form and to the physical that we get a kind of destination addiction. It's like, I thought it, why don't I have it now? I want it now. And that's how gratitude actually brings us into the presence and helps us then to exist in that grace. And if then we can use that gap there, what I call also the seasonal lag, to actually refine the thing that we want to have actually come into form. Refine the creative thoughts, tend to it with a kind of divine perseverance rather than a white-knuckling, resistant kind of angsty, I need it now,
Yeah, moving
stress
towards that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Most things that are worth having are not something that you can necessarily will to
Yes.
have happen right away.
Right.
There are things that you can, it can be something that you think about daily, or something that is just in that, like, I don't know, people have, what do they call those
Vision boards,
Vision
yeah.
boards, or they read The Secret and they think that everything is in their life is going to be wonderful if they manifest it or whatever. But it's honestly, if you just happiness, if you just
Yes.
there's something as simple as that. Because if it's something as specific as like a red Maserati or something, it's useless. It's materialistic. It's bullshit. But just a feeling of comfort or happiness. It's if that's something that's constantly on your brain, then that's something that'll eventually happen for you.
It's right. Yeah.
Did you have after you had that session and you talked about a friend who had passed away, right? What was your take? What was your walk away with that? Did it change?
Do you even remember? It's been a while.
I absolutely remember.
Yeah, we
that.
talked about it before. We had even talked about him being on the show. That was how you came up, right?
That's not true.
That's
I
not
just
true.
brought her up because
Exactly.
I miss her and she
Yeah.
never calls me.
No, but then you said I that's the conversation where you said I worked with her in a session.
Yeah, we had worked. Yes, and no, it wasn't like a thing that just came and went at all. No, it's something that stays with you, and it's not. It wasn't. It's not like going to a psychic.
did you
and
feel
being
like you were
I need to
communicating
hear
with
this.
him?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's what,
And he said,
that's what I guess I'm getting to. Is it like was it real for you?
Was it? It absolutely was real for me, and the reason that I know that it was is, I can't speak to people going to a psychic and being like, what's what does this mean or whatever the fuck, because I've never done that, and that's not a thing that I would do. I'm not going to go to a stranger and be like, oh, I hear that you can do this, give them some money, and then expect that what they tell you is gospel. She's a person that knows me quite well.
Yeah.
And she did not know him at all. And because I know her as well. So when he was speaking to me through her, I guess to both of us, I don't know how you would.
Yeah,
how
it
that
was
would be.
for me. It was a kind of channeling experience, and that was early for me. And I hadn't really experienced a kind of channeling. That's his essence is very strong.
And I'm
Yeah.
gonna say this part because I think it's really funny, and it's also it's very him. There was a part.
I remember.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. She was saying that he and I were together in previous lifetimes. I don't know what that really means, but but we were
Me
together.
neither. Yeah.
Right. We were together.
I mean, I do and I don't, but I don't claim to
Right.
adhere to knowing it. Yeah.
But our souls had been together previously, and like once we were engineers on a train, like throwing coal.
Oh, I don't
into-
remember that. That's
I
cool.
remember that part. We were throwing coal into an engine, but it's like
Oh, cool.
locomotive. And then another time we were married
Yeah,
in a
husband and
previous
wife,
lifetime,
man
and I
and
was like,
woman.
wait a second, who was the man? Who was you were hetero? You were man and wife. And I was like, well, who was the wife? And who was the and.
Max was the wife, yeah.
Yeah, you were like Max was the wife, and then he said something to you, but you didn't want to tell me
Because I didn't want it to just break the
we were
energy.
we had done some work to get to where we were, where she could be communicating with.
And he's like crying and stuff. Nick is like, crying.
Yeah, I'm losing it. And then she giggled a little bit, and then she didn't tell me what he said because she'd forgotten or whatever until the next time I saw her, and she's like, "Oh, I needed to tell you something." When I said that you were man and wife, and you asked who the wife was, and I told you it was him, Max then said, "Yeah, but I never sucked your dick." And that is not something that she would say at all. And again, she didn't know him, and that's absolutely something that he would say. So I was like, oh, this is real.
Because Nick goes, wait, who was the woman? And I was like, oh, Max was the wife. And he goes, aha. Like, so he started teasing Max basically right
Yes, I
away.
did.
And Max is like, yeah, but I never sucked your dick. And I was like, I'm not going to say that right now because we're busy.
I like that you get pulled into this bullshit like guy
Best
sparring.
friend. Yeah, exactly.
It was so fun because it was him saying things the way that he would say things, and totally not any words that she would ever even pull out of her at all.
I've heard her say suck dick plenty.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but no, there were.
But I
there were
wouldn't
plenty
have
of
said
other
that. Would have been insensitive to say at the time. I would've-
Right.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
That's
So that was
awesome.
it was really special. I'd like to do more of it, but you know what? I wouldn't say sense of completion or well, yeah, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that it's done either, but I would say that since those experiences that we had, I no longer am like, I don't need more. I don't need to talk to him more. I just know
Right.
that he's
Yeah.
there,
Right.
and it's not. And that's a comforting feeling. And since then as well, I've also just been noticing and listening in life in general to life in general, but in particular things that that might pertain to him or his presence or whatever. And it's just, and it's not like, oh, what a coincidence, because I don't really believe in coincidences anymore. And it's not a coincidence. That's that.
Right.
That is what that
Synchronicity,
is.
The person who was sort of one of my first teachers in intuitive arts, or really in mediumship specifically, her whole life didn't have kind of psychic experiences or anything like that, but her husband passed away, and quite young for them. They'd been together I don't know how many years, but I think they were in their late 20s, and he passed away. And so that's how she basically started becoming a medium, because she had to talk to him. She needed to have contact with him. And so
okay.
that's how.
And she created that bridge?
Yep. Yeah.
Now, how much wouldn't you kind of feel like, I mean, in my mind, immediately, cynically, I'd be like, well, she's just like finding it everywhere. And I would question the authenticity of that message.
What do you mean she's finding it everywhere?
She became a medium to talk to her dead husband.
Yeah.
And so do you think that, I mean, I could easily say, nope, she didn't become a medium. She just talks to her husband, and she's crazy.
Sure. I know, but there's a difference between. Okay, well, let me take it out of the realm of that. There's a difference between being a really fantastic method actor and being, disidentified with your own personality.
Insane.
Yeah, exactly. So dissociative identity disorder. There's a distinction there.
But wouldn't you say that she would have to have an affinity towards being a medium already? And
She didn't have an affinity until
he died.
Yeah, she didn't have an affinity previous to that.
Openness to it.
She didn't.
Yeah.
She just said. I mean, at least that's her story. I didn't have an openness. I didn't have an interest in it before until I did. I didn't have like a kind of interest my whole life, and then all of a sudden I moved into it. My whole life, it was either. Because I came up in evangelical Christianity, like more fundamentalist, it was either. Which I did. I was
super Jesus freak.
Super Jesus freak, yeah. I did that until I was for the first 20 years of my life. And then for the next 20, I basically did kind of skepticism mixed with a little higher consciousness study, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so it was either totally fake or it was scary. Like those were the options. That's what my paradigm had offered me. So I didn't have a curiosity about it until I did. And then I just did.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Would you say that it's something that someone is innately born with, or is it something that
I think it's just a creative talent like anything else. So I think that everyone, if you have a voice box, you can sing. And some people are more naturally talented, and then they work on the technique in order to become really, really good at it. And then some people are maybe just okay with their talent, and then they work really hard on the technique, and they can become professional, high level with either kind of option. And then, of course, there are some people who really are pretty tone deaf, but they probably have other talents. You know what I mean? So I think that's basically it.
Sucking dick.
If you have a really strong gag reflex, then you just may not be that good.
I don't know.
And
you started
even the one bringing it up.
I know, but
Both
now
of you
it's
two are.
in the head.
I would say that my feeling is that everybody has. I mean, that the brain provides. First of all, I mean, like sort of tapping into that resource, or at least in my experience, like when traumatizing things happened, like losing our daughter. Mm-hmm. Like I think I became far more. Maybe searching, and also I feel like I was listening to things more, and also just things happened, like really miraculous things where I communicated, where I had a sense of communication or something else happening, and an amazing sense of grace, which I think is what most people who are crossed over, or whatever you want to call it, are trying to. I mean, I have never felt so clearly consoled than when that happened. And I just could tell that not just her, but the universe was really consoling me. Right. And it worked. Like I knew that something terrible hadn't happened. Something great had happened. And that's a really hard thing to say about losing a child, obviously. But it was like, I immediately knew that something really great had happened. And we talked about, it was like.
A part of you was more in spirit then, a part of your consciousness.
Which the rest of my life was certainly not in spirit at that time. But it's a blessing. It's interesting because I'm remembering that you were there when Patrick died too.
Yeah.
which was weird.
Yeah,
And not
exactly.
spiritual for me at all.
That's a friend of ours from the hospitality bar industry, and he passed away more or less of alcohol poisoning, I guess you would say. I mean, so
It's been happening a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
And Aidan was very, very close with him, and yeah, I don't know, for some reason.
That's weird that you were just there.
I was acquaintances with him. He was always sweet to me, but I don't know why I found you that night. Yeah, I don't remember how I found you that night.
Pulled up outside of an
Yeah.
event. That was such a weird thing. That was a rough one.
Angels, man.
Yo, no, she was.
I was
that's
driving
it,
him
and
around
she
town.
drove me around town,
Yeah.
and I was unraveled. It was a weird thing. That one did not. I would not say I was graceful.
By the way, do you know? Okay, for both of you, he just reminded me. Patrick just reminded me. What I don't remember if I've told you this. I think I did, but you've certainly never heard it, Nick. Sasha Petrosky died. He
Yeah.
was another really, basically, for the booze industry, famous pioneer and everything. 24 hours before he passed, Patrick came to me and told me about it.
Really?
What? Really?
Yeah, Patrick Kelly opened up $7,000 with me.
I know. I knew
Yeah.
Patrick.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, I didn't
He
know
was
that's
like-
what he was telling me, but I had told a friend. I was like, someone named Patrick came to me, and I just, he was there. And then the next day, I heard about it, and as soon as I heard about it, then he came through, and he was like, that was Patrick Kelly. Then it was like, when I heard that Sasha had passed, that's when Patrick came through very clearly and said, yeah, I was setting the tone, basically, with you.
You know what I was thinking about, though? I was just thinking.
It wasn't like a
there's
warning,
lot
like,
of-
oh, go stop his death. It was like in the offing, like Sasha's soul had already put that in play. It was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of a way, I don't know. I mean, that's what happens when you do things like I do, where, and you guys too, like when you're really sensitive, creative, intuitive, and you're always kind of feeling into the subtle realms. So sometimes it just happens because you're always in those realms. And so that's what they call precognition. But Patrick said as a purpose, the reason for it too was just kind of a tuning thing so that I could be, he's in that space and he went through that, and him connecting with my energy helped me to help. Probably that's like, you know what I mean? Maybe because of having helped you during
That
when
was
Patrick
odd
passed.
that you were
and
there.
everything.
Yeah, it was odd that
No, no.
people. Yeah, no, it wasn't odd at all. It was exactly right. But I remember just being like, "Why are you outside the front door?"
Yeah, because I never leave the house.
Never. And it was on Sunset Strip.
when you're
It was
needed.
on
It's
the
like you're a
strip.
superhero.
We were like at a bar.
Somebody's dying. That's
was like-
really
she
close
was
to
like-
somebody that I love.
She was
That's
a
what
spiritual
now
Uber.
when you see
You're a
Tricia
spiritual
show up,
Uber.
you're like, oh shit,
Who died?
call your mom.
She's
Grim
out
Reaper.
at a bar after 9 o'clock at night. Somebody's dead for sure.
And I did just like fall out the front door and into her car. Did you go get your car, or how did that work?
I had my car. I don't.
I don't remember how
Wasn't
any of that worked.
drinking,
I remember
so,
I
yeah,
fell
just
out the
came-
front door having heard
Yeah.
the news, and you were there.
What's really interesting about this whole topic to me, and the show's called Enlightened as fuck. There are a lot. So
Glad he checked it. He's like,
You
wait,
had
what's
to
the
read
name of
it.
this show?
The show is called.
it's not on the thing. I wasn't reading
it's
it.
About, it's called Smorgasbord.
Aidan Demarest and
Aidan. So people. So when things like that happen, and our community. I mean, let's say it happens in life in general, right? When people die. Everybody wants to feel. It's so desperate to feel something. They jump at they're like,
Yeah.
oh my god! Like I sat next to him in math
Yeah.
class. He was like my best friend. Shut the fuck up. Because when you are actually close to someone and those people come out of the woodwork, it's really it's painful. It's hurtful, and it's like fuck you.
well, they're doing the best they can though.
Are they, or are they just
Some-
trying
okay,
to
no, some
be
people-
succubuses? And
some
like
people-
I knew him so well.
Some
Like I
people,
knew
yeah.
Patrick. I didn't know
Don't
Patrick.
appropriate somebody's grief, and I know what you mean. I don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say that
it's
happens with famous people when I mean
All
I don't
the
know.
time. Like Michael Jackson died shortly after Max did, and I was like, I don't give a fuck. And people are like, how could you be so insensitive? I'm like, A, fuck kids. B, I didn't know him. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I didn't know
But
him
you know
personally.
what?
He
Michael
gave us great
Jackson
music,
or
wonderful, but I didn't
anybody's-
know him.
Like that means they had a personal connection with him, like Jackson 5. Lots of people had a strong connection.
Sure, they
musically
know
with
him.
Michael Jackson. No.
Well, okay,
but
when
he was a big
Lucille
part of
Ball
their
died, I
childhood.
cried. I was like 16,
Yes, you
17
grew
years
up with
old.
her.
Exactly. So, and she was
Even
like a
Michael Jackson. Hey, I'm
comedic
still
mentor.
bummed about Bill Cosby. Like,
Yeah, that's
that
a
was
bummer.
a bummer.
I'm bummed about Louis C.K.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I don't think media.
That bummed about it.
I
Were you
mean, I
terribly
want
shocked
him
that he
to.
jerked off in a hotel
I'm
room?
not surprised at all. He's a
deal.
fucking
I'm-
weirdo. Of
In fact,
course,
I
he
didn't- I
jerked
don't-
off.
I'm bummed
But he
because-
was
I don't like him more or
hilarious.
less.
I'm bummed because we don't get his work anymore.
I like him too. Exactly.
That's why I'm bummed. Yeah.
That's why I'm
What?
bummed. I'm
That
not.
that he doesn't have a career anymore. I don't get to.
Me too.
That's
Me
what I'm bummed
too.
about.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even imagine that whatever. I don't want to get to that one.
But
That,
yeah.
especially based on all the other horrible transgressions, jerking off in your hotel room. You get what you get.
He asked permission. I'm not
You know
saying
what?
it was cool,
You cruise up to
but
some
what I am
comedians
saying is,
in
are you
room.
surprised?
If you cruise up
Listen to his
somebody's
material.
room, wasted after a comedy show, you're gonna see some dick.
Yeah.
True story. I mean, I have never had that not happen for me. And so it's two dicks. I don't know how they
I have never had that not happen for me.
No, you're gonna see.
Why
some
are you
dick.
surprised?
Yes. And the fact that he was taking care of it on his own, handled.
Literally.
I would have just been like, "Where's the blow?" Like, you keep going. Let's just go to town, brother.
Okay.
He's doing all the work.
And obviously, obviously,
They
to
didn't
be
have to do
sensitive,
anything.
the reason it's a shitty thing is because these women were like
Couldn't get. They were trying to get stage time.
work exactly, you know,
Yes.
and so I mean, yes, exactly. But you were saying
is
though
almost
about
My point was
Yeah.
that, like, yes, these people's their artwork affects our lives, right? For
Yeah.
sure. But when it's something, whatever you could say that our industry wouldn't be where it's at without Sasha Petrowski, right?
Yeah.
So people felt like they knew him, and then they felt like they needed to jump onto that. But honestly, for someone that was close to him, I was not close to him, but someone that was, all these people coming out of the woodwork and being like, "Oh my God, it's such a It's like, honestly, it's like, go fuck yourself. Have your own thing. Have your own best friend die, and then you can, and then you'll understand why I don't want everybody sucking onto this thing. It's
I think that's one of the things. Like, this falls into definitely like what we were talking about, Mike. Like, when you have a death like that, if you haven't had one,
You wanna
can't know, but
feel
you
it.
can't know that what's insensitive and what's not. I can honestly say I was 40. I was in my 30s. I forget. Whatever. When we had a late term pregnancy, a daughter died, and I didn't know at all that all the years I had ever addressed anyone who had lost someone. It was the first real death I'd ever had. My grandparents were all alive at that time. I had all my grandparents when I was in my 30s. I had never really lost anything. And so all of a sudden, when people came up to me and sort of appropriated it or whatever and misstepped, I was like, oh, they just don't even know
Yeah.
that doesn't work. Like, or that.
well, people don't know what to do.
You can't
in
know what
this.
you don't know. So,
Yeah.
like,
And really
if
what
you're
it
a
is
25-year-old kid
just to
and-
be there for someone,
and, like,
that's it.
Patrick or Max died, and they walk up and like, oh, you know what? He taught me how to make a martini at Cheers conference down in Vegas. Like, they were like, I loved him, and we got wasted and did a bunch of things. And you're like, okay, like, I planned a life with that guy. I thought I was going to have a future. We were business partners. I had, like, my hopes and dreams were built into this person that not just as a business partner I thought was going to be a friend of mine for the rest of my life. And a 25-year-old kid can't know that. Like,
No.
so on Facebook, they're like, he was so awesome, and here's a picture of me at spring break. Like, that's just all you're going to get.
Yeah.
You
And
can't
the-
expect them to know anything.
And when I brought this up and why I said the show is called Enlightened as fuck is because there is that. There are the people that will come out of the woodwork and be like, oh my God, yeah, like our picture on spring break or whatever the fuck. But like I have another friend, we have another person that died recently in our industry of drank himself to death. And I have another friend who was very close to him, very, very close to him. And the way that he's handling it is I'm so like proud of him and just I'm amazed by because he's in such a good place spiritually that he's like I know that he's still here and he just needed to go on to the next plane or whatever. And I'm like, that's fucking props to you, dude. Like, because I didn't know him that well, the person that died.
Yeah.
But he was like best friends with him, and I happened to call him the day of, and this is kind of like you showing up outside of the bar. I happened to call him the day he was going to the funeral. Like I knew it happened, and I was like, "Hey, man, I haven't talked to you in a while. You want to hang out?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to a funeral.
I'm busy right now."
And I was like, "Oh fuck, I didn't realize that you were that close." He's like, "Yeah, he was like my best friend, my first best friend when I moved to LA." I was like, "All right." And then I saw him a couple days later. He's like, "Come over and we'll have lunch." Me, when that happened to me, if you came over a couple days later, I was sitting on my front porch, like living in a bottle of bourbon for a good year. You know, it was not. I handled it poorly. And what I'm saying is, the more enlightened you get, and the more you communicate about it, and the more that, and the more we have conversations like this, and the more people get to understand what it is to exist in this particular realm, and the more of an understanding they have. So, like, my friend currently is in such an amazing place spiritually about it, and I'm really, really proud of him. And it's the opposite of being like spring break best friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I got nothing on that. No, I agree.
So what else is
How do you make that Okay, so
Yeah.
where's the Tarzan swing there? Because we both just, I mean, I would not say that I handled, I've ever, I mean, is it just life experience? Like, I don't think I have handled stuff like that happening well.
What do you mean when it
Where's
happens
the
to you?
Tarzan swing where you can skip the climbing into a bottle for a year of bourbon and just go right to, I mean, is there a spiritual skip where you can be like, okay, how do I find grace right away?
Oh, I think what it's speaking to, and what Nick's point is that this particular friend who's handling it well had the foundation for it already.
Yeah.
It's not like he today, but I think the friend actually, when people and animals and whatever, when they pass, when the consciousness departs from the body, that they take a part of us with them. And so that's what I was saying, like a part of you, because you have that bond and you have a shared energy that is like literally the essence of the soul. And so a part of what makes you actually now exists non-physically now too. And so I think in Nick's case, because he was more, as you're saying, this is not me saying this about Nick, you were in a darker place. You were more in a confused place, maybe more of a mentally diseased place. And so when the orientation of you moved more to the non-physical, it moved to the realm of non-physicality, the mental realm that was, and that resonance, of fear, of pain, of suffering. And so that's why you were kind of incapable of grounding the experience in any way. But this other friend of yours, his essence is already like really mingled in the more positive resonances of non-physical.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to
So
see.
he's like having a good time.
He's not like rejoicing, but he's just in a really good place.
That when it happened to you,
which is wonderful.
Fuck yeah, I've been waiting for that asshole to die.
He kept getting all the jobs before me.
Yeah. No,
No, it's like
I
when
feel
you.
like I grew up in, obviously, like the Irish, I think, do it right. There really is. There's a ton of booze involved, but immediately I grew up where death at funerals and stuff like that was always like a super funny, which is why I sort of joke and I mean, it was a funny, what's going on over here?
I don't know. I think that I'm not on camera, and my camera died,
Oh,
and I'm like,
camera 2.
and this is like the money over
Now
here.
it's the opportunity.
That is
time.
the money.
This
It's
is the time to
usually-
finger bang. Tricia.
You really wanted
boy.
to say, I said finger bang at lunch. He's just really been wanting to say finger
She
bang.
did. We were talking
there's
about
no restriction on
putting
finger bangs.
tampons in for the first time.
We were talking about. Anyway,
I used to use tampons.
I
for my
think there's
nose
certain
at funny
cultures,
reasons.
anyway, mine being one of them, that death is like something that we always joked about, probably because we were afraid of it and stuff like that. And it was built in and around booze and bars, and Irish funerals and wakes are, giant boozy festivals. And they really were fun. Like, you really did laugh, even at my grandmother's funeral and things. We would you really take the piss out of the dead person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a roast essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
in my family, it always was. And unless it was a super young person or a really tragic death,
There I am.
then they went differently. Boom, and she's back, refreshed, post finger bang. You didn't know that was
You guys are. My husband's a really good sport.
Yeah.
He's
Does
actually-
he watch the show?
Oh, he's a wonderful man. He does the theme song. He made the theme song.
Yeah,
he
he
does.
did. Yeah, he did. No, actually, I've known him my group, my as the one who always like crosses the line. So Brian would be like, "Oh no, if Aidan says finger bang, I don't know what Tricia's going to say next because she's going to try to outdo it."
This is called raising the bar.
Well, that's actually.
Because she's going to have fisting.
I know it's true because I had to claim it. I know it's right, and I had to claim it. I'm like, I already said finger bang today. I already said it.
Yes, she
I already-
did.
That's not better than me. I already said it.
She gave it to
She
me.
brought finger
Hey,
bang
you told me
lubricant.
that you weren't gonna, that I wasn't allowed to bring up previous conversations, and then you just did to get
No.
your credit for it. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, fail.
Yeah. It's all
Yeah.
my rules.
She's like, you're not allowed to say, "Oh, what we talked about earlier
I
today."
know. No. You just don't do it every time so that it takes the piss out of it. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
we say. Well, what we do say when we're not here, it's like, don't say, now.
Stop talking.
Stop talking. Don't use
You're
up all the
shooting
funny.
all the
You've
one.
almost opened that water like 95
know, now I'm doing it.
times.
What else has been going on with you though, Nick? So
Yes.
you're
What
you're
else is
about to-
going on
you're doing
besides
a
people dying?
Vipassana. Vipassana journey.
Well, I'm just.
We're never gonna get a decent.
Let's talk
sponsor
about.
with that one.
Should we talk about how Nick accidentally had 2 girlfriends when he thought he had 0?
I don't think that either one of them are gonna want to hear about that. No, let's not talk about that.
Are they listening?
I hope not, but one of them may be.
Oh, damn it! How about if you find out you have 3 or 4 more?
No, I had 2. I didn't know I had 1.
Call in now if you're Nick's girlfriend.
Don't drink.
Call in,
Don't
call
drink
in now
alcohol
if
to
you're Nick's
excess.
girlfriend. How about if the phone is just like, and they're like,
I've got 3 of your children.
call in now if you're Nick's baby.
So that was one of
Address
the
isn't listed anyway.
one of the things, one of the factors that I took into consideration when I decided to go on this little spiritual journey and maybe take a step away from the amount of booze that I was drinking. I had 2 girlfriends and I didn't even know I had 1. So that was.
And they both informed him.
Yeah.
And then
I really don't think they're likely. One of them's going to listen to this. I'm not going to have any. Well, I don't have any technically, actually. Right
Well, we just talked about grace, so I hope that they got that note.
giving you.
That they
yeah.
need to be graceful about bad information.
Well, I thought you.
Yeah.
I thought you didn't want to have any.
I don't want to have any.
Okay. Well, so
Okay.
you're breaking up with them again if they didn't know.
right.
Yeah.
No, it's already.
So you
happened.
didn't know that you had girlfriends,
point-
and they
Oh
keep
my
not
God,
knowing
this
that
is
you've
like a
broken
Ryan
up with them.
Seacrest call-in show now. Are they going to call in and we're going to do it now live?
No, there's no.
We're not live, right?
So
We are live. Of
We
course,
are,
we're live.
yep,
Always live every time.
Are we? Damn.
always live all the time. So yeah, so that was a pretty clear indication that I needed to maybe focus on myself a little bit because I hadn't really ever done that. I've always had a girlfriend or somebody, and
Yeah.
it's specifically since Max died because. In my life, like the drinking was always fun until that happened. Then it was like maintenance, necessary. Well, also plenty of fun, peppered in there. But I'd never really taken time to, get to know me and figure out what it is, who I was post that, without another person around. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. It sounds very selfish because it fucking is, and you know what? I'm all right with it.
I don't
not
think it
selfish.
sounds
What do you
selfish
mean?
at all.
Yeah.
No.
It's not
Selfish.
selfish.
I
to
Whenever I hear
focusing on
people
me.
talk about not only in our industry, and I say industry, but the bar world or whatever, but also when the industry is like sort of like if you want to talk about spirituality and stuff, it sounds like a ton of work. You know what I mean? Like whenever I hear somebody say something like, and I do the same thing, then I'm like, oh, because it was all so fucked up. I'm like one of the hardest working people I know, and I bust my ass all the time. And what you're talking about, maintenance. Most people don't do that. So like. You're here because of all that, thing,
Yeah.
and and the spiritual maintenance too is a ton, and it's funny how quickly I turn on that. Like I'll be like, oh, because I'm just so up my own ass and I'm so self-absorbed.
No, but
and
that's
stuff like that.
here's the
Like,
thing: is that there's something. Okay, you've probably heard of the golden rule. You've just heard that before. The golden
Yes,
rule.
I've heard that, but it's
You don't know
the
what it is?
golden rule. It can be applied to any subject.
Yeah.
No,
really.
the golden rule. So the golden rule is
Golden rule is-
it's mentioned.
Don't
It's
do blow in
basically
hot tubs.
It's at every major religion. We talked about-
Golden
every
rule.
major religion has some version of the golden rule, and so in the only sacred text that I know well is the Bible because of all of the thumping I did, and
20
so
years.
yeah,
super Bible bumper.
yeah.
Is there a photo? Is there any photo of you back in the Christian days or any of that? Is there like a bib
You mean
front dress?
high school?
I want to see like a bib front dress situation.
I wasn't a Puritan. They didn't have those anymore.
But did you go door to door with pamphlets?
No.
I thought all of that. was happening.
no. Did you
No.
hear that?
No. Why? What
When did
else would you
become
do? How'd you
Canadian?
drum up business?
They did a lot of work.
I've never been a good salesman. No, that's true.
She's a salesman for a living.
No, I'm terrible at it. No, I'm not. I'm very
Sort
much
of.
not.
You
I'm-
work in a sales arm of a business
Yeah, but I don't.
that sells stuff.
So anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the golden rule.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
golden rule.
So
I
the
was
golden
like,
rule.
we just went real far. I have no idea if we're gonna
Okay.
make it back.
I was seeing the bib front dress and like a sweaty
I
priest and like
did-
ahead of her
yeah.
going, "Come on, Tricia, you
You
talk
won't
to
be
the
able
young
to find
folks."
it. The reason you won't be able to find it, Kurt, is because you don't know my maiden name.
Oh,
I do.
You guys do, yeah. You
Yeah.
know me since then.
right. it's where you find
That's
her
your name.
down a
Your-
dark
your
alley.
name is still saved as that. And I'm sorry, Brian. It has nothing to do with the fact. I love you. I think you're wonderful. I just haven't changed the number.
So,
I haven't either. She's still Tricia Alley in my phone.
Yeah, me too.
all right. So the golden rule is
I gave it away. Now we're gonna be able to find the pictures.
no. It's I don't know if you'll be able to find any high school pictures of me.
Golden rule. Sorry.
The golden rule: love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay. Or do unto others
Okay.
as you'd have them do unto you. But love thy neighbor as thyself, or love your neighbor as yourself. Some version of that is in every major religion or belief system or something. And it's actually what nature does as well. And what that speaks to, if you say, love your neighbor as yourself, in that we can see that you can only possibly love your neighbor if you love yourself first. Because if you were to love your neighbor, if you were to be a martyr, if you were to deplete your resource in order to love someone else, this is an ecosystem. And if you were depleting your own resource, if you were allowing it to run out, then the ecosystem has to support you then. So you're not truly creating anything if you are creating something supposedly to your own deficit, you see? Because the ecosystem it's basically like a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So if you're depleting yourself of your own life force energy, then the universe has to sustain that. And so nothing has been added to the field. You haven't added value.
Yeah, I know that I want to. Oh, that's
So
interesting.
self-care is not
Self-care
selfish.
Yeah, and it's something that I do now in my
It's
morning
hard.
meditation. I really ask. And so morning meditation for me felt really, especially since I have kids, and it felt really self-absorbed. Like doing them, even taking 10, 20 minutes to like meditate and center and figure out where my day was at. I always felt like, what the hell? Like I have shit to do.
Yeah.
And it's so, all of it, all my morning meditation is what can I do for somebody else? It really is. And it's like, and it's hard for me to concentrate on that.
But
like
if you-
because I'm so up my own ass. But
If you kind of like an orientation I use about that to be able to enter my day is sort of like a couple of ways I think about it is I send my love before me to whomever I'm coming into contact with, even if it's the people I drive past on the street. I send my love before me, but see, I have to receive that. I have to be aligned with love. My love has to be full in my being before I could even send it through me. Or I say, may I be a blessing. But see, to be a blessing, you have to first be a blessing. You have to be identified with blessing.
but now I really feel like we're doing a Sunday open house, like an even.
No, but that's I mean
There's
that's a
something to
really
it.
good. You're on your meditation, like
Yeah.
it seems selfish, but it's so not.
No.
Because I've hung out with you when you don't meditate in the morning. I've hung out with me when I don't meditate,
Yeah.
even if it's 10 minutes in the morning.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be around me. I'm a
That's
dick.
literally why I started meditating every
But,
day.
yeah.
Because one day I was being kind of a dick, and Brian was like, "Did you meditate today?" And I was like, "No, I wasn't meditating daily necessarily.
It's
I hadn't
a
thought
gift
about
to
that."
other people.
And he was like, "Oh," and he wasn't being judgmental. He's being sweet and kind. And he was like, "Oh, okay. Because when you meditate, you don't normally snap at people like
Yeah.
that." And I was like, "Really?
Yeah.
Oh shit. Okay, then I shan't miss a day. Then
It's
I
funny
don't want to
because
be a
it does
worse
seem
version of
so
myself."
self-absorbed, and it seems so woo-woo, like that thing. But I can't really hear other people until I do that.
Yeah, because you have to hear yourself as
And
the
it's
listener.
so amazing. I mean, it goes away
That was
throughout the
good.
day.
Did you
That's
hear that?
good,
He
yeah.
missed it because he's not listening.
Because he's not listening to
Talking.
anything.
Well,
I
that's
said you have
that's
to
what
hear-
I say to her all the time. Whenever I'm always like, as if you act like you exist when I'm not in the room. Like, as if this doesn't just all
Yeah,
slip
yep.
in.
That's an old one.
We are actually we're out of time. So
Oh,
yeah,
we
will
don't-
you
I thought
come
we were gonna
back? What were you talking about? What?
I thought we were going to talk to people that called in and stuff because
We have to set up a call screening situation.
But this
Although
is not
Aidan
our
doesn't
time.
want to, and yeah, we didn't really.
Nobody knows we're on right now.
Nobody knows on right now.
I
Since
hope
I
that
didn't-
neither one
I
of
have
my
to let people have
girlfriends
to
knows
warn
that
them.
we're
Have to warn them that we're coming
I
on.
wish that you know what, you're on next week. If a new girl showed up during this,
Will you
during
come?
this time.
Will you come back on next week?
If somebody
next week.
Yeah. not?
All
All right.
Sure.
Well, join us next week. You can watch us on YouTube. That's just find us Enlightened AF podcast, and you can also find us on Facebook and I think Twitter too. So we'll see you next week. We should be back at our normal live broadcast time slot, which is 7 p.m. Pacific. Thanks for tuning in, you guys. We love you.
Bye guys. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.